We're going to give up everybody a few more minutes and then we'll start the meeting. So thank you all for being here. Okay, good evening, everyone. It's 7 o'clock. We appreciate everyone being here. I see that everyone has their microphones muted, which does help, so that when we have people speaking, as you all probably practiced on Zoom a lot, we can have you unmuted so that you can speak. Reform and Reinvention Collaborative Committee. This is a public forum. This is a meeting designed for the committee to listen and hear the comments and solicit and hear the comments from the public in response to the document that we created and or any other comments. One of the things that we want to be clear about is we want to remind you that this needs to be focused on the town of Ulster, that these comments are directed for the town of Ulster. I'm sorry, we don't have authority over the county. We don't have authority over the state. We have direct involvement or direct influence over the town of Ulster. So we're going to ask when you do speak that you give your name and state that you are a resident of the town of Ulster. And we'll go from there. A couple of the other items that I want to mention is that Kyle and I to be disruptive or unruly. Kyle is managing the access to the meeting, Chief Kyle Berardi, and he would then have to silence that participant. We don't anticipate that. We've had no trouble at all. So we're just encouraged to have you participating. So welcome and thank you very much. Kyle, did you want to make any comments before we start?
Thank you, Clayton. I appreciate everybody being here tonight. Obviously, we've all been working diligently for the last several months. I give a lot of accolades to committee members that have put in a lot of time and effort to make the town of Ulster Police Department a better place and to effectively and efficiently police this community. We're going to, like Councilman Van Cleek said, sorry about that. We're going to keep it strictly to the town of Ulster. Obviously, we've been doing that so far. There's a lot of national issues that are surrounding law enforcement right now. But at this present time, what we can effectively and efficiently change is going to be the Ulster Police Department. So we want to keep it strictly to that. And again, I want to thank everybody for attending tonight, and hopefully we have a good evening and good discussion.
Great, thanks. What I've done is I took notes of names on the screen that appear not to be members of the committee. So I will be checking from there and inviting people to participate in the meeting. There's a lot going on here tonight. The meeting, we're being hosted here at the police department. Let me just check with Kyle. Kyle, am I going to be able to unmute people, or they do that themselves?
They should be able to mute themselves.
Okay, all right, very good. So when I invite you in, if you could just unmute yourself and mute yourself, I appreciate it. So what I noticed is that on my list, Laura Hartman was the first non-committee person to join the meeting. So Laura, would you like to speak first? We're asking for you to limit to like 3 to 5 minutes, if you could. Please.
Okay, well, thank you, Clayton. I have prepared remarks, and I have emailed them to you and to Chief Berardi and other board members. So you do have this in writing.
Yes.
But I just wanted to start by saying thank you for this opportunity to speak about an issue that has consumed this country for a good portion of 2020. These conversations are important, and we must be able to have a forum to talk about what is happening. I'm happy to hear the reports I have had from Councilman Clayton Van Cleek and committee member Wayne Spanier, comments on how well and diligently the committee has worked. I'm also grateful that Chief Berardi has approached this task with an open mind and has been very generous with his time in answering questions. It speaks well of our citizenry and our town officials. While I have never directly experienced racism, I have observed what my African-American clients and colleagues have experienced. I've worked for 30 years with Black people working in the field of jazz. I have toured extensively throughout the world and all over the country with them. Their fear of being stopped by TSA agents is palpable. I have seen them profiled by police in all parts of this country. My brothers or nephews or cousins have never felt the way that they do. Profiling really does happen, and the offenses around the country that have caused the convening of this committee are egregious. It is heartening to read that the committee finds no compelling evidence of random or systemic racial or other bias in the way the Town of Ulster Police Department interacts with the public. It is also wise to minimize the potential for biased policing to make sure that it never happens in the Town of Ulster. Here are my comments. Given the recent events at the US Capitol, there should be a zero tolerance policy for officers being connected with a white supremacist group such as the KKK, the Boogaloo Boys, etc., and fringe conspiracy theory organizations like QAnon. Town of Ulster police officers should not be involved in that culture. In the recruitment, hiring, and training portion of the draft proposal, recruits are called youngsters. I would hope that we would never refer to them nor think of them as youngsters, as we should be looking for emotionally mature young men and women. Under policies and procedures, it is recommended that we establish an unpaid civilian review board for critical police crisis oversight and feedback. A similar suggestion is made under hiring, where the subcommittee recommends that the interview process should be more formalized. I would suggest that a civilian board would be helpful in a few areas. Currently, a candidate is interviewed by Chief Berardi and by the Personnel Committee, which is comprised of members of the Town Council. Currently, the town board members are all white males in similar age brackets. Chief Berardi is also a white male. This civilian board should be more diverse to reflect the population of our town and our visitor population. In addition to interviewing new candidates, the civilian board could also review complaints and do a periodic review of each officer. I would like to suggest the interviews, including the one to get the job, include real-life video examples of police videos where confrontations happen between officers and a subject, and that the candidate is asked specific questions about those interactions. In a long discussion with Chief Berardi, I was shocked to learn that in Ulster County, candidates for the police academy are only required to have a high school diploma or GED. That could mean a candidate might be less than 20 when they become an officer. Are they mature enough at that point? I believe that at least 2 years of college, which is provided at Ulster County Community College, could provide time to allow a candidate to mature. People go into a career with their own ideas on what it is. College gives preparation for what the job actually is and a sense of reality. If these candidates are not getting that time to learn and assimilate to what being a police officer actually means, they are then leading with their inexperienced ideals. Also, could we create a program for new young officers that would not give them policing duties, but community duties for the first year or so? Could it be done in conjunction with mental health agencies so officers can get valuable experience in dealing with people in crisis situations? Would this give them better tools with which to diagnose a situation and find a way to diffuse it before it turns into a confrontation or potentially deadly? They could also provide opportunities for police officers to interact with students, the disabled, people with mental disabilities, to better understand them. It could also be an opportunity to do a community outreach to train them how to interact with the police. The goal is to make sure our officers are really prepared for their job. Creating a more trusting relationship between the police and the community is crucial to the success of any of the changes we want to see happen. We need to provide ways that we see each other and understand how we each might feel in a given situation. This is not a one-sided issue. We need to look at it from the police side and the public side. It is in that spirit that I respectfully submit these remarks. Thank you.
Thank you, Laura. Okay. The next person on my screen that looks to be signed in is Linda Brown. Did you have comments, Linda, or are you just watching with your husband? You're muted, Linda. Linda, you're muted.
Watching with my husband as a resident of the town of Ulster to hear what others have to say.
Okay.
Thank you.
Oh,
Please.
no comments. I live in Dutchess County. I'm just here just
Oh, okay. Tanya Marquette. I see your name on the screen. Okay. Are you a town of Ulster resident? Is that yes or no? Tanya, we can't hear you. See that you're unmuted, but I don't hear anything. Okay. All right. I see Zelda.
Yes, hey,
All right, please.
thank you. Yes, I'm a resident of county.
Are you a resident? Yes. I appreciate you being part of this. Thank you.
Thank you.
You can always send your written comments in, okay? Please. Thank you. Okay. We have one here that says first, last. Okay. All right. Amanda I just see Amanda, C-A-B-A-N.
Cabanias. Amanda
Yes.
Cabanias.
Yes. Are you a town of Ulster
Hi,
resident? Amanda?
I'm not. I'm a City of Kingston resident.
Okay.
And I'm just here because I wanted to. I mean, I believe you just said that we could submit written comment.
Yes.
But I'm here to listen because I remember recently reading that there was a contract that was agreed upon between the City of Kingston Police and the Town of Ulster Police, saying that City of Kingston could borrow personnel in times of emergency and routine police act, deciding who would be on this commission.
Okay, so we'll have to get back to you.
Great.
If you want to send us a written, we will happy to get an answer to you. If you want to address that to Chief Kyle Berardi,
Okay.
so he'll get it and then we'll get an answer for you.
Excellent. Thank
Okay.
you.
Oh, thank you. I see Lee on the screen. L-E-E. See William. Nope. William.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, and I'm with the Bill Freeman. My video should have come on. Hang on.
You got a face.
There we
You got
go.
a face for radio, Bill.
However,
Yep.
just two things. One, the courts have ruled repeatedly that people speaking at a municipal meeting it's irrelevant what, so did you check in with Jason Kovacs on this? And then second,
I can answer your first question. We did not check in with Jason Kovacs. We were given advice by the governor's office that to facilitate these meetings, that we were able to narrow it down to give the citizens of the town the opportunity. So that, well, I will confirm that though. I will double check that because we have another meeting coming up on the 28th.
And the second part of it, and in a previous discussion I had referenced the idea that Ulster Town Police and the served as backup for the Ulster County Sheriffs. And while you don't have to answer the question, although at other police commission meetings they are answering questions, my question as a reporter is would not police reform involve how the town of Ulster police respond when acting with other police agencies? So while you do not control what the town of Ulster does when the Ulster County Sheriffs or state police have a lead role in an incident, you do have, I would be curious what, excuse me.
Bill,
sorry.
Bill, if I may interrupt you, so we can continue
Sure.
to give our public time. That incident happened since we scheduled this, and our group has been talking about it. I can give you that assurance, and that's all I can say about it right now. It has been a topic of our discussions.
Right, but you did say when you opened this meeting that people wouldn't be able to comment on the role of the Ulster County Sheriffs, and I found it interesting that you would say that since the town police served as backup.
We'll get a response. Okay, I appreciate it. Okay, the next person on our list, it says Michael Goldman.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, Michael. Are you a town of Ulster
resident?
I
am a town of Ulster resident. I am.
Well, you're welcome, and please, you have the floor.
Thank you. I have a prepared statement here that I'm going to read. I appreciate.
And you'll keep it to
yeah, I think it's
reasonable time.
It's just a couple of minutes. I appreciate the opportunity.
Good.
Okay, so I read through the two documents that this committee has made available. In doing that, it's clear to me, at least, that they are not primarily concerned with the central issue that Executive Order 203 attempts to address, which is the racial inequities in policing, specifically those brought to the fore by the Black Lives Matter protests across the country and the world. Instead, they devote most space to tweaks to the hiring process, officer mental health, and public relations. The fact is that the current system of policing in the United States developed directly from the system of slave catching. This policing developed to serve racist ends, and racism is baked into its DNA. Policing in the United States is systemically racist. This applies to the town of Ulster as it does to every municipality. Police kill at least 1,000 people a year. That's one person every 8 hours. Black people are killed at a rate 3 times higher than their white counterparts. These numbers are only estimates because there's no central database of police killings, and police forces often refuse to report these figures. Police forces often resist efforts to hold them accountable. A good example of this is the recently repealed 50A law in New York State that shielded police records from rightful public scrutiny. Police forces also groups like the KKK. And a good example of this is the right-wing mob that attacked the Capitol building on January 6th in an attempt to overthrow the elected government of the United States. It included many off-duty police officers. It's very challenging for me as a member of the public to believe that a committee with so many police officers on it, that releases documents on police department letterhead, that hosts its meetings in the police department, is seriously interested in addressing systemic racism in the light of the information that I've just provided, along with everything else that is readily available to you. Specifically, I want to call out that the co-chairs and politician is inappropriate and unnecessary. These chairs should be people of color with relevant professional or activist experience and knowledge. What do these chairs do? I want to know. What qualifies Clayton Van Kleck to be a chair? I don't think that operating a tire store is relevant experience. Systematic racism in policing is a fact. After reviewing the I'm reading from your document here. After reviewing the information and data, there was no compelling evidence of random or systemic racial or other bias in the Town of Ulster Police Department interacts with the public. In the correspondence document that you released, it also mentions that a review of arrests from 2018, 2019, 2020 to date revealed approximately 30% were Black or Indigenous or people of color. So in a town with a population that's 95% white, the surrounding population of the county is 7.2% Black. Kingston's population is only 15.4% Black. Ian's portionate percentage of the population of arrests is people of color. That is clear evidence of systemic racial bias in the Ulster County's way that they interact with the public. So how exactly have you determined that there's no racial bias? And why is that analysis only alluded to in these documents and not laid out clearly? Finally, there are many aspects of Executive Order 2 you're supposed to consider, she's saying justice practices aren't mentioned, community-based conflict resolution isn't proposed. There's others, but I'll submit more in writing because I don't have to waste too much time. If there are members of this committee that are genuinely interested in trying to strike at the heart of the racist system of policing, fiddling around the margins and conducting charm offensives only serves to shield the police from scrutiny and prolong the suffering this racist institution produces. There are activists of color working on this issue across the country, and they are doing so here in the Ponce Valley. Please look to them for leadership. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael. And if you would, could you, if you were willing to, your remarks appear to be prepared. Would you be willing to share those with us in writing so we could have them documented? We were taking notes. You could email them to the
We'll
Thank you. Okay. I'm looking on the screen. Regis, you're the next one.
All right, thank you, Councilman Van Kleck. I wish to acknowledge your good leadership in all of this, as well as Chief Berardi, and I'd like to acknowledge the 11 or so citizens and the 3 police officers and representatives of the Defender's Office as well as the DA's office, and in putting together your recommendations. You know, I think you've done a very good job, in my opinion. What I've submitted my comments in writing, and so you have those, and anybody who wants a copy can get them. In speaking about the national issues, which Lauren, gentleman, Michael, I guess is your name, sir, ahead of me spoke, is important because that's what brought us here. In my view, the Town of Ulster Police is not the reason. They haven't made a lot of mistakes that would really cause us to get together. The reason we are is because of a larger context, and the larger context, as Michael pointed out, is a certain amount of racism, but it's also much larger in how you get along with the general community. So Black Lives Matter. It's important. It's not just that. Every officer takes an oath to support the Constitution of the United States as well as the Constitution of New York, and these are very noble things. And to be a police officer is a noble. It has happened in our country with in a sense, the misuse, not only the misuse, but misunderstanding or the override of the oath by lesser instincts by police officers as well as elected officials. I mean, there's a lot of blame to, in a sense, go around as what really brought us here. I want to refer to in my remarks really 4 areas. And I'm really going to start with some of the recommendations made by the committee, which I support. They are the recommendations for body-worn cameras. I think that is something that really bespeaks an element of transparency with the community. And the comportment that others have alluded to. The other is community liaisons between the police and the citizens, whether that's the Peaceful Guardians Project or some other enterprise that would act as a go-between between the police and the community, so that better understanding could be realized. We support that. The consideration of interest-based bargaining. I have some experience with interest-based bargaining, and I have experience with all of the issues that I'm going to be addressing. One of them being interest-based bargaining, and what that takes to get to it. So that's a as I understand that the police use traditional adversarial bargaining. Interest-based bargaining requires a whole other level of thinking that's really quite different than the adversarial bargaining. And I'd be willing to speak with anybody either on the town council or both in the police department about what that would mean to get to that different kind of bargaining, and using outside mediators such as the Federal Mediation and Conciliation Services. I thought that the concept of the EPIC peer intervention training regarding de-escalation was important, because it's not only important that one has the emotional intelligence to understand, where they're coming from in a certain situation, so they understand their strengths and their opportunities for growth, but also that fellow officers would, and should intervene to de-escalate when that is appropriate. Critical incident training for people who have special needs, such as people with mental health challenges, as well as intellectual disabilities, autism, and other developmental disabilities. These are really special circumstances that police encounter, and sometimes, and it's been my experience, there have been, not in the town of Ulster but elsewhere, some missteps with people with those kinds of disabilities. Stress management and trouble is extremely high with police officers. The establishment of a citizen advisory council, in other words, the extension of the advisory council here, this committee that has worked with 11 citizens, but to have a citizen advisory council that would be advisory in nature, and to continue basically what we're doing, so that improvements can be made to the system and addressing ongoing community concerns. We can learn from other people. We can learn negatively, and we can learn positively. I wanted to point out a situation where a police chief from another municipality within the county had suggested looking at what he thought were the issues within his police department, being the misuse of sick time and low morale and mistrust of command staff, and also maybe reports that were not filed correctly. And what this police chief had suggested was using a metrics of compliments to police officers. So there's nothing wrong with positive reinforcement. And I think that's always a great start. And I would never, you know, be critical of that. However, I think it misses the larger picture. And again, this is where context comes in. That context being organizational culture. You cannot cheer up morale. Morale is the temperament of a culture, and to try and cheer up its disposition is not a way to improve the culture. The culture is really everybody's responsibility. There are ways to do that. I have about 25 years experience in organizational cultural development, and I would offer my my knowledge and my services to our police department in that regard, that you really need to look at this larger picture. And when it comes to race relations, you can't assume that you know it, no more than a police chief can assume that if he gives compliments to his staff who mistrust him, are going to turn around and have a higher morale. So it's a forest for trees issue. The last thing I just want to recommend is upping the accreditation process. So one of the things I know about the town of Ulster Police is that they are accredited, and they're one of the few police departments in the state of New York that is so accredited. I looked up the accreditation program, and it's really a standards compliance program. I'm not diminishing it. It holds police departments who are participating in the accreditation program to live up to these higher standards. And so it's really complying with those. What I'm referring to is upping, I'm suggesting the consideration of our town upping its game to a higher level of self-examination, soul searching, and data searching to really understand themselves vis-a-vis national best practices and national leading practices in policing in all areas, whether that's relations, other community relations, because the very nature of policing is a kind of a paradox. It's a paradox of protecting and serving on the one hand, which is really pretty terrific, and on the other hand, it's catching people doing something wrong. And those two things have a cultural knock that doesn't always work. So a national accreditation program, which is all voluntary, would not only I think, and I have experience with national accreditations, having participated in those after a standards compliance program, and it ups your game to the point of having better associations with your customers, in this case, our citizens, and also gives you gives you a reputational advantage with regard to economic development. I want to live here. I would feel very safe. It's time. So thank you. That's all I have to say.
Very much. Regis did mail in his comments, and we will try to get those published, as also Laura and anyone else who mails in comments. We will attempt to get those published so they're part of a public record. Okay. All right. Next, I'm seeing one with the name Owner. Are you a Town of Ulster resident? What is your name, please?
I'm a Town of Ulster resident, and I'm on the committee.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't recognize you on the screen here. So you have nothing to say then.
I'm listening quite intently. I'm listening quite intently.
I'm sorry. Now I see your picture. Okay.
I had some problems getting on, and I was listening.
Very good. Okay. We got some. All right. All right.
And, I'm sorry. And owner says owner, but it's John Brown.
Gotcha. Yeah. Hi, John. Someone with the name Adam.
Yeah.
Adam? Are you a Town of Ulster resident? Okay. Your last name, please. Required? Yeah, to all Town of Ulster meetings require first and last name.
I'll drop off then because I'm not going to provide that.
Okay, if you want to mail us anything in, you can, or you can continue to just watch them.
Yeah, I didn't have any statements. I was just observing.
Okay, that's great. No, we're glad to have you on. Rachel.
I am not a Town of Ulster resident, but I live very close, and the policing, and I understand, I'm just going to say that the Town of Ulster policing affects me because I have worked, you know, right on the border. And so I would encourage you to, again, look at expanding the ability for people to comment in the future. And with the consideration, I understand you may not want to have everyone from across the state jump in and talk, but within a certain, you know, mileage or something, you know, it's the policing of the Town of Ulster impacts residents that are just outside of the Town of Ulster.
Okay, for any of you that are, yep, thank you. For any of you that are on this meeting that are not residents of the Town of Ulster, we're glad you're here. And we welcome you to send us through email or the mail, somehow send us your comments if you'd like. We would love to get those points. We just want you to know that this meeting is specifically designed tonight, to allow the Town of Ulster residents their opportunity to speak to the committee. And so we're trying to be very careful that we allow that. So let me see who the next person is I have on. If you are a Town of Ulster resident and you want to speak, could you put like one of those reactions on the screen so I can see a reaction from someone? Do I see anybody's reaction? Everyone appears muted on my screens. If there's anyone else that's a Town of Ulster resident and would like to speak, would you please go ahead and unmute yourself and make yourself known to me? Okay. With that, what I believe that we have is that everyone else that's on this meeting is here to hear what was had to be said, and or has made the comments that they want to. I will try one more time. If there's anyone else that is a Town of Ulster resident that's in this meeting, the Zoom meeting, and would like to make a comment, please unmute yourself.
You have
Susie
me.
Yes, go ahead, please.
Thankfully, I've been a resident of the Town of Ulster for probably over 30 years. I am amazed at how wonderful our police officers have responded. It's not perfect. I know. I really believe that our police department has always done the very best that they could. Yes, there's been mistakes, but I am very, very proud to say that my police department is the Town of Ulster, and we're not perfect. We're going to keep working on what we have to do to get things done right. We've done some things wrong, but we've also done a lot of things right. So I just want to say kudos to the Town of Ulster Police. You've always been there for me and for my neighbors, and I'm thankful that you're all out there for us. Thank you.
Thank you. Susie Reevy.
Hi, I just want to, I'm speaking as a town resident and as an employee. I've heard meetings where you've commented month to month on how the progress has been with the committee. And I'd just like to know what the next step is, what your plan is for the next meeting, and what are the next steps in the next month and a half to completing the progress of the committee.
Okay, we have another public meeting scheduled for Zoom, just like this one, for the 28th of this month. 7 o'clock. We'll do another Zoom public meeting. Again, it is for Town of Ulster residents to give their comments to this committee. Then in February, the committee will meet again and consider all input, not just from these 2 Zoom meetings, but we've also been encouraged to be out soliciting input from friends, neighbors, and others in the community. And then in February, the committee will reconvene. We will take our document and modify it, add to it, change it, and make a document that during the month of February, we have to approve. And then we will present it to the town board for approval. I'm sorry, I see that someone else wants to speak. I'll get to you in just a minute. We will then present it to the town board, and the town board then has to consider it and make policies, and then they have to prove they've done that to the state by April. So we're under a very stiff time frame that we have to have this presented to New York State by April. Someone named Malia was asking to be able to speak.
Hi, yes. I'm a City of Kingston resident, but I have a question for you. My children attend public school in the town of Ulster. Why will you agree to have a meeting where residents from surrounding areas can speak out, not just to submit our letters, because my children are impacted every day by, potentially by town of Ulster police. And if my children move on to the middle school, they will also, if there's an SRO there, that is a town of Ulster policeman. Is that not correct?
Malia, I think that's a very, very good point. I don't see why we couldn't accommodate you. Why don't we get a quick discussion offline about that? And I think we could probably plan for an accommodation like that for our 28th meeting to say that, I have to go to my members of the committee because they're all the ones that decide it. But I would think we'd welcome those comments if you have students in the district. We just ask for your name. That's all we're going to ask for. But let me get an approval. We'll get that out in the email. Maybe I can ask Susie Reevy to publish that on the town's website to affirm that. Malia, thank you for your request.
Clayton?
Yes.
Would you also check on the requirement that people provide their last names, because the advice from state, from the Committee on Open Government, and I realize this is not subject to the Public Officers Law, although the public meetings are required, is that people at public meetings do not have to provide their names. They can speak anonymously. Now, the town of Ulster may have a running policy of it, but the advice from the State Committee on Open Government says otherwise.
Yeah, no, please. And if you would also you can get back to us also, because you could research it too.
I have, and that's why I'm asking you to.
Okay, we were told, I'm not saying it's your job. We were told by the state, in order to facilitate the residents of our town, that we should limit it to the town. The town has a policy that when someone's speaking at a public meeting, they have to state their first and last name. That's what we're following. But I will research that. Kyle and I can get with the town attorney, and we will research that and get an answer back to you before the next meeting. Okay. Okay. Lee, did you have a comment you want to make?
Yeah, I have a statement.
Are you a town of Ulster, Lee? Your last name, please, and are you a town of Ulster resident?
My last name is Green, and yeah.
Please, good, thank you.
Okay, so as you all know, police infiltrated the Capitol last week. These people are former and current law enforcement, business people, and veterans who live and work in the Hudson Valley. The Hudson Valley also has strong ties to white supremacist cults. People who live and work alongside us hold racist and white supremacist ideology. There has been calls to fire politicians that attended or supported the insurrection. We should be treating the police the same. The fact is that police and other law enforcement have political views and biases of their own. Police drive around wearing Blue Lives Matter and Red Lives Matter masks. That is a clear example of having a political stance or racial bias. We as a community should know about any police who were at the January 6th insurrection. For this reason, it is concerning to say that the police can be impartial and unbiased regarding politics and social movements. We have seen countless times that police abuse and murder marginalized folks at much higher rates than their allies, politicians, the state, and the systems, and other law enforcement. Were there any police in the town of Ulster who participated in the January 6th insurrection? Will you take any disciplinary action against the members of your department who believe that they are above the law? Thank you.
Lee, we did take notes. We don't know who you are. If you want to contact us, we can either communicate back to you directly, or we will respond to that in our next meeting. So some of these questions that were asked that were open-ended, we will attempt to have answers that we can publish to you either in writing on the website, or we will speak to them at the next public meeting. Anyone else that wanted to speak tonight from the town of Ulster?
Yeah, isn't that a question that the chief of police could just answer right now? Like, are you investigating whether officers went to the Capitol or were involved in far-right?
That's not something that we can answer right now. We will definitely investigate that for you because, yeah, we will get you an answer. So you're asking, were there any officers from the town of Ulster that were involved with the incident in Washington, D.C.? Is that your question, Michael?
I was actually asking if you were even going to investigate it.
We will now because you asked us the question. If you're
okay,
yeah, it was a question brought up at this meeting. We'll look into it. We're going to attempt to answer every question. We've struggled from the very beginning to try to make this as open and inclusive a program as possible. This group has included several police officers, people from legal services, and anyone in the community that volunteered. There was no one that was exempt from this in the open volunteering. So whatever we can do to assist and to consider rejoining us again on the 28th. If you would, statements or would like to be able to hear some things. What we will do at the next meeting, we will review the notes, committee people confirmation on, so that at the 28th meeting, we will give responses to the questions that were asked by the public, which are general information. Public record again. So you will be able to see that once it's changed, because when it's presented to the town board, will be public record. So you right now, the public on the town's website, have a copy of the draft document, and you will see, the public will see the document. Kyle, is there anything else we need to address tonight? Okay. Chief Kyle Berardi lost connection for everything. So did you have anything else to say, Kyle? He's trying to get his computer hooked back up right now.
I'm sorry about that, folks. I'm back on.
There you go.
Okay,
no, there you
go. No questions or concerns right now. Obviously, just to let everybody know, we are taking police reform seriously. The questions that were spoke to us, obviously we don't want to answer all of them at once. We want to give time to look into it. But yes, if in fact, to Michael's questions, if in fact there's somebody that attended the Capitol incident 2 weeks ago, we will be investigating it. At this point in time, it's not known to us.
Okay, so with all of that said, I want to thank everyone for being part of this meeting, and we look forward to you joining us on the 28th if you'd like to. Again, that's next week on the 28th at 7 o'clock. We will send out another public invitation to a Zoom meeting. So if that be the end, Kyle, you will be ending the meeting then. Thank you all. Good evening and good night.